Hi, beautiful souls, and welcome back to Find Your Way to Vibe. I'm Amber, and I'm really grateful you're here with me today. It feels a little bit different today because we are closing part one of season one, and I don't want to rush past that. A few short months ago, this was just something that I was carrying quietly within me. I didn't have it fully formed, it wasn't perfectly mapped out. It was simply just a steady pull and a constant whisper that kept returning no matter how much I tried to quiet it, or even when I tried to convince myself that it was not the right time. There were so many moments where I almost started. I had it outlined, I imagined it, I thought of all the possibilities of what it could be. And then, in true Amber fashion, I would start to overthink it all, or I would let my anxiety creep in and take a hold. I would tell myself that I need more time, more clarity, or to have it more polished. I would tell myself that I was too busy to add more to my plate. It was just excuse after excuse. And that wasn't sitting well with me. And one day I just had to ask myself, how long are you really going to keep stopping yourself, Amber? Is this something that you're willing to set down? Or are you going to keep going? And it wasn't something that I can just set down. It was something that I have been wanting to do for a very long time. So I pressed record. And it wasn't some dramatic moment, it was just a simple and honest moment with myself. One that was led with the intention of following the path that has been before me all along. And that matters, because following through on something that has lived inside me for so long has changed me. And this season hasn't just been about reflection, it's been about movement and about choosing to move when it would have been easier to stay still. It's been about choosing alignment over comfort and purpose over perfection. And I feel like when you stop making the aligned thing optional, something powerful happens. And you don't just finish something, you become someone who follows through. And maybe that's where this lands for you too. Not in the big leap, but in the quiet decision to begin. And that's where this season started. Before we go any further, let's take a breath together. Take a slow breath in and let it out gently. Wherever you are, allow yourself to arrive. Soften your shoulders, set down whatever feels heavy, and walk gently into this space with me. Welcome to Find Your Way to Vibe. Looking back, it feels fitting that we began this in winter. Not a calendar winter, but an emotional winter. An inward season, a reflective one. The kind where things look still on the surface, but underneath, something important is happening. It reminds me of the bears and how they move with the rhythm of the seasons, and they don't rush it. When winter comes, they don't resist it, they retreat and slow down. They conserve, not because they're weak, but because they're wise. Their bodies repair, their systems reset. They simply just trust the rhythm. And I think that's what this season has been for us. Not a pause because we were behind, not a slowing because we lacked any kind of momentum, but just a quieter stretch that strengthened us from the inside out. We didn't rush into becoming something new. We started by remembering who we already are, our worth, our roots, and the women who lit the way before us. We moved gently, with intention, instead of noise. And once we slowed down enough to notice what we were carrying, something shifted. We began choosing differently, choosing ourselves and listening instead of overriding. We're building boundaries not as walls, but as clarity. And then winter asked for something deeper, not dramatic change, but steady release. Letting go of what hardened us, loosening our grip, and softening where we armored up. Winter did not ask us to perform. It asked us to clear. And in that clearing, space opened. And in that space, we found our way to vibe. For today's Find Your Way to Vibe, instead of focusing on just this week, I want to invite you to sit with the whole season. Just gently look back on it and notice. Maybe something shifted for you. Or maybe what shifted was simply your awareness. The way you pause before reacting, the way you caught yourself in an old pattern, or the way you allowed yourself to rest without explaining. Or maybe this winter simply gave you space to think. And that's enough. It doesn't have to be dramatic to matter. Winter work is often quiet. It's the kind that doesn't announce itself. It just steadies you in small ways. For me, this winter season has been about not stopping and about noticing when doubt crept in and choosing to keep going anyway. It's been about honoring my pace instead of forcing urgency. Pressing record each week, even when I felt unsure, wasn't about productivity. It was about alignment and becoming someone who trusts her timing more than her fear. And one thing that I've realized is that growth doesn't always feel like growth when it's happening. Sometimes it just feels like showing up. And only later do you notice something inside feels a little more steady. As we step onto the trail of gratitude, I invite you to do the same as we did with Find Your Way to Vibe and think of all the things from the winter season. Just sit with it a moment and just notice. Maybe you notice that you reclaimed something. Maybe it was your voice or your time. It might have been the way you held your boundaries or even reclaimed your calm. And maybe somewhere along the way, you set something down. An expectation that was never really yours or an old identity that no longer fit. Maybe it was a way of proving yourself that left you feeling exhausted. Whatever comes up, just notice it. And notice where it feels lighter. And if there is even the smallest shift, let yourself feel gratitude for that. And wherever you are, take a breath and let that settle within you. For me, when I look back on this winter season, I feel very grateful that I didn't quit this time and that I began even without having all the pieces figured out. I feel grateful for the quiet support of the listeners who showed up each week and for the clarity that only came because I slowed down long enough to see it. And I'm especially grateful for winter, not because it was loud in any way, but because it just strengthened me in ways that I didn't expect. There's something beautiful about the way gratitude softens us, the way that it loosens the tight grip of judgment, and the way it allows us to see the season with more honesty. And when we soften like that, things become clearer. Sitting here now, looking back on the last few months, I'm realizing that I'm still a little surprised that it's been 3 months, because when I started this, life was already full and everything seemed to be moving all at once. And I keep thinking, why did I choose that moment? I could have waited for things to slow down a bit. I could have told myself it wasn't the right time, but I didn't. And I think that's what surprises me most. Not that I started, but that I didn't stop myself this time. And there were quite a few things that got in my way, but I just kept going. And once I put it out there, I knew I had to follow through, because it wasn't something I was willing to compromise with anymore. And I knew that it wouldn't be perfect. I knew that I still had a lot to learn, but it was important that I stayed consistent and committed. There were weeks I was tired and I wasn't feeling well. Weeks that I questioned myself and re-recorded everything. Weeks I stared at edits longer than I wanted to. And the little voice would try to convince me to stop. It was always there. But regardless of what that little voice was telling me, I kept showing up. And I'm realizing now that the imperfect follow through has changed me more than waiting for perfection ever did. Showing up while I'm still learning, that's been a part of my healing. And something else I've been thinking about is that we talk so much about healing like it has to be this big, complicated unraveling of sorts. Like there's one method or one breakthrough or one miracle shift that heals us. But it's not just one thing. It's a combination of many things. But it isn't about how people tell us it should look. It's about how we feel it should be for us. And when I really look at what's helped me the most, it's been the simple things. It's been the way that I have learned to value my being with all the things that I have found that I connect with and that bring me joy and that make me go just a little bit deeper and helping me understand all of the things that I've experienced. I have really enjoyed the gathering of the things. I'm still gathering things, but there is something invaluable to the things that I found so far, especially my walking and meditation, being in nature or writing. It's also been about the setting of boundaries and actually honoring them. And it doesn't have to be flashy or out there. It's just the things that simply align with me. And maybe that's what this season has quietly built in me. Trust. Trust in myself and in my timing. Trust in my voice. And trust that I don't have to rush. And that's slow doesn't mean stuck. And when I zoom out even farther, I realized this winter wasn't just these last several weeks. It's been the last several years of my life that I feel like I've been in a winter season of some sorts. Just a quieter season, a slower unraveling with a lot of turning inward. At the time, I don't think I would have called it that, to be honest, because it just felt like life. But now looking back, I can see how much was being rebuilt underneath the surface, how much work was being done as I moved along my wintry path. It was a very quiet time that was very personal. And while it didn't always look like progress to me, I had an inner knowing that something in me was shifting, and it was very necessary for me to go through it. There's something almost poetic about this podcast beginning here at the edge of that season, because it doesn't feel like a sudden start for me. It feels like a transition, like I'm closing a chapter and opening a new one happening at the same time. And it feels different. And what feels different now is I don't just feel reflective. I feel ready. I don't feel rushed or pressured. I just feel ready. And that readiness actually feels calm. Whereas before, it felt like a whole lot more anxiety. So to be here in this moment and to be emerging from the winter season, it just feels right. And I'm excited. I'm excited for the possibilities and for what's to come. So as we move on from part 1 of season 1, I just wanted to briefly take a moment and share the rhythm this space will loosely follow from here. Find Your Way to Vibe is going to move with the seasons. It's going to be one season per year with 4 parts within it. There'll be 10 weeks on of episodes and then a few weeks so that I can take a break and rest and integrate and prepare for the next season. This first pause will be a little shorter since I took time for my New Year's walk, but generally it will be about 3 weeks between parts. And that pause matters to me because if I'm going to speak about rhythm, I feel I need to live it. And not only that, but rest matters. Sustainability matters. And integration matters. Growth that lasts isn't rushed. It needs space to settle and to strengthen, and then naturally to rise. And that's what spring will be about. Not rising from pressure, not rising to prove anything, but rising from alignment. I want spring to hold space for expression and creativity. I want it to hold space for joy without apology and for being visible after shrinking for so long. In addition, I want it to be about moving forward without abandoning ourselves in the process. So while winter cleared the ground, spring will ask something different. Now that you know yourself a little more clearly, how will you move? Now that you loosened what no longer fits, what will you create? And now that you trust your voice a little more, will you let it be heard? Those are some questions just to ponder as we exit out of the winter season. But blooming doesn't happen through force. It happens through readiness. And I believe we're ready. And I look forward to the spring season. This week, Brooklyn Lights the Way is dedicated to the version of you who stayed. The one who kept going no matter what. The one who built walls when you needed protection and is now learning to replace them with doors. It's dedicated to the ancestors who endured for us to be where we are today, and to the children who soften us and teach us some of the most surprising lessons. It is also dedicated to the quiet supporters who steady us, and to the inner child who once shrank and is slowly learning how to expand again. Winter work isn't always visible, but it's pretty powerful. And if you're still here, still listening, still doing the quiet work, your light is steady, and it matters so much more than you know. And that steady light, that's what carried us through this winter. This winter, we listened, we chose, we released what no longer served us, and we slowed down. We didn't just survive it, we participated in it. And in participating, something in us strengthened. Not in a dramatic way, not in a way that needed any kind of applause, but in a steady way, a more internal way that changes how you move. And everything you learned comes with you. The awareness, the boundaries, and the clarity about what feels aligned and what doesn't. Spring won't ask you to become someone new. It will ask you to simply trust who you've become and to move forward a little more boldly. Not in a reckless manner, but in a more confident manner. It will ask you to take up space without shrinking, to speak without rehearsing your worth, and to let what's been growing quietly beneath the surface finally reach toward the light. Because growth that has taken its time doesn't need to rush when it rises. And when you bloom, it won't feel forced. It won't feel like you're trying to prove anything. It will simply feel aligned, and it will feel natural. It will feel like momentum that has been quietly building all along. And maybe that's the quiet gift of this season. Not a loud transformation, not a dramatic before and after, just a steadier way of being, a deeper trust of yourself, a softer strength, and a clearer sense of yourself. And that feels worth honoring. Thank you for walking this winter season with me. I have really enjoyed my time with you all, and I look forward to stepping into the spring season with you when we return on March 22nd. Until then, walk slowly, breathe deeply, trust your timing, and remember, you can always find your way to vibe.